Before we go to prayer, there's a young boy at Sequoia High School that was killed in a car accident named Trenton Heron. He was a great athlete, basketball player, football player for Southwest Sequoia. And, so we're going to start this meeting off with this moment of silence. And we'll go into prayer. Trenton Heron. Father, Lord, God, we just thank you for life, Father. And Lord, we pray for Trenton Heron. Lord, we pray that he was in a right relationship with you, Lord, so that he shared eternity with you, God. And Father, God, we pray, God, that we all have that hope and peace, Lord. God, we pray for his family, Lord. Pray that you would heal their hearts, Father. God, give them understanding, Lord, during this time. And God, God, thank you for his contribution, Lord, to Sequoia Schools, Lord, and the people that he impacted, God, throughout his life here on this earth. And Father, we pray for this meeting today, Lord. God, we just pray that we'll come together as one, Lord, as trying to fulfill your will, Lord. And God, we thank you for his son, and just thank you for that cross. God, just be with us today. Amen. Shall we call the roll?
Jr.
Here.
David Walkenstick. Bill Anglin.
Here.
Jack Baker.
Here.
Joe Bird. Julia Coates.
Here.
Jody Fishinghawk. Meredith Fraley. Janelle Fulbright. Present. Ron Garvin. Frankie Hargis. Present. China Glory Jordan.
Present.
Lee Keener. Dick Lay.
Here.
Curtis Snell.
Here.
David Thornton.
First.
Kara Callan Watts. On me. We do have a quorum.
I'd entertain a motion to approve the minutes of May 30th.
So moved.
Council Who was our second? Council Carter. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. We have two sets of minutes.
No.
No, that's Council Karen wants you have a motion for.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to make a motion to amend the agenda to add the following two resolutions. One is concerning the nomination of Cherokee Nation citizen Keith Harper as UN Human Rights Council Ambassador. And then second is the resolution authorizing the placement of land in trust, part of Block 16 South Coffeyville. And I assume that would be items 6 and 7 under new agenda items or new business.
Thank you, Councilor Mansfield. Do you have a second?
Yes, second on that.
And Councilors, we would open up the land in the trust certainly for co-sponsors
Oh, and that would be item 3 and 4, just to correct myself.
Okay.
Okay.
And Councilor Karen wants any objection to adding co-sponsors to the Harper resolution?
I'm happy to do so. Would it be at the time that we take it up?
Okay. I know there's been some interest in doing that, so I thought I'd mention it off the top. Thank you. All right. Now moving to reports, we are behind schedule, so I would ask the reporters to stand for any questions since you've got your reports already in. So, Marshall. Hello. Questions for the Marshal? Councilor Gomez.
Thank you. I want to thank your staff and the security that you gave Marshall. It's like a Monday today on a Thursday, so whatever term you gave them authority or authorized them over the election, at least from where I sat on Saturday, there was no stupidity. Everything felt really secure, and it was greatly appreciated, even to the point of going to the post office. And the guys were amicable even up until 2:30 in the morning when I left. And I don't know, I'm sure the Election Commission has other things to add, but I wanted to say thank you to that, and thank you for adding Cumberland Indian Hospital to the report. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor. Any further questions for the Marshal? Marshal, thank you. Office of Attorney General. Any questions for the Attorney General's office? Anything you need to highlight that's not in the report?
I don't believe we submitted a report, but I wanted you to know that our office has moved to Court Mall, the top floor of Court Mall. So if you're looking for us, we're not in the complex right now. At least most of us are not in the complex right now. We're still in the process of moving.
Yeah, actually, again, Councilor Garvin and then Councilor Conlon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Is there any word on the tag compact?
We don't have an announcement on the car tag compact right now. We're still working towards that.
How's it looking?
It's looking good.
Is it?
Yes.
So maybe 30 or 60 days?
Soon. Say 2 years.
Uh,
I hope so, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Councilor Conlon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I had questions about the Indian child welfare case and status update, Friedman, the UKB, impact of water in the Texas ruling
Right.
on water, and then a date on codification. Is that, I know that's a lot, so is there, because of time, can we get a written report maybe after this meeting?
Sure,
Or
I can,
email?
yeah, I can, or if you have a particular question about it, I'll do my best to answer it now, or I can answer it later. It's fine.
The only, I think, immediate and pressing question, if we can get a report or email update the next day, is do we need additional monies on the maybe Veronica case?
I'll have to let you know about the money situation. You know, that ruling, of course, has really rocked our entire office. And, it's something that we're just trying to still get through and get a good handle on, but our commitment to seeing her stay with her father is absolutely unwavering. That is our top priority.
Thank you, Sarah. Much appreciated. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor. Any further questions for the Attorney General's office?
Thank you.
We addressed codification, election commission.
Obviously, I'm not Mr. Horton. I'm Lindsay Earls, the vice chairwoman. And we want also to thank the marshals. They were great. We had security guards and marshals with us all week long last week, and they were professional, and we felt secure. Our ballots were, even the ballots when they were driven back from Stillwell, there was a marshal in front and a marshal in back, and they were escorted the whole way back on Saturday night. And they did a fantastic job, and we appreciate that. We also wanted to thank our precinct workers who worked really hard on Saturday and worked really hard on Friday, and they all did a great job as well. And then our staff who worked yeoman's hours last week. We were in the office for 24 hours straight on Saturday, as Councilwoman Cowan Watts can attest to. So, and our staff was right there with us. So they all did a great job, and we're really pleased with the outcome, with the way everything went with the election on Saturday. So I'm sure you all have questions, and I'd be happy to answer any of them.
First of all, congratulations on what appears to be a very well-run election.
Thank you.
I know none of them are easy, and this involves some transitions with vendors.
And in fact, now that you mentioned that, I didn't introduce. We have Eric Champlain with us. He's he's the project manager from Unison Systems, which is they helped us with everything, but our machines were built by those guys, and he's here today as well.
Thank you. Councilor Fisher.
How in the world did so many ballots get out without no ballot count?
Well, it was a problem at the mail house, and any problems like that we were made aware of, we had those ballots overnighted to those people. It was a mail stuffing process that I can't answer exactly how it happened, but it did happen. We found out about it, and we did address it.
How many were they all given?
I don't know the total. I don't think there were very many. Do you know how many we found out about that didn't come?
Who would know the total?
That we heard of, some of the staff might know, but how many we heard of and how many actually happened may be a different number.
I would say small amount in the overall amount. I don't have the amount off the top of my head, but it's very small. It was a very small amount in regard to the amount that were actually sent out.
I think I personally heard of less than a dozen, and we sent out 3,800 absentee ballots. So, while a dozen people not getting their ballots is a problem in the grand scheme of that number, it's
Well, I know there was twice a dozen, there was at least 24 of the Nader County.
We did a turnaround on addressing those right away. Once we found out, we contacted those people. We asked them to send us an affidavit, and those were back within 2 days back to the office, every single one of them. And so that issue, once it was brought to our attention, was addressed with a paper trail for us to follow.
I called your office and I put one of my people on the phone with you all that called and complained. And after they got off the phone, they said exactly what is an affidavit. I don't know if that surprises you all or not, but some people out there do not know what an affidavit is in Adair County. I wish it could have been explained better to them.
Well,
And then the other thing they said was, they turned around and looked at me and said, why am I having to fill out an affidavit when it's y'all's fault, not mine?
I apologize for any confusion about what an affidavit was, and again, when we found out about the problem, we addressed it, and hopefully in a successful and satisfactory way, because I think people did get their ballots.
Okay, I only heard of a couple that didn't get them, and I told them to go to the polls and
Yeah.
telling you all to do a
And
challenge.
Any voter who, our poll books say, they requested an absentee, we checked each of those, and if they didn't come in, if we didn't have an absentee ballot come back in the mail for them, we counted those votes.
Okay, I was not wanting to make sure, because that's what I told them, just come to Willoughby, do a challenge, tell them you, one of them that didn't get them.
Yeah, so
And they take care of it that
those
way.
folks, if they didn't mail us one back, we have a scanning process that we were doing all day Saturday, so when the challenges came back on Saturday night, we knew who we'd gotten ballots back from.
Okay, that's great then. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any further questions for the Commissioner? Councilor Conlon?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was very impressed overall. Like, it was very eye-opening. Really, everyone should have to do a Watcher's Day. And I know that came with difficulties because of my position. So in order to protect Councilman Baker's interest, I appreciate the patience of the Election Commission and staff that put up
We're
with
all
me
glad you were there.
for 20 hours. I was trying to be appropriate and team player, whatever. So it's like, it was interesting to have all of us in that little room for that many hours. I'll never forget it.
Hot little room.
Yes, I will never forget that experience. So I think there's opportunities that we can all help each other and give feedback, and that there's stuff. So in lieu of, we didn't have the, not that we needed it, but the Carter Commission, if you've read the, I think the 99 Carter Commission report, I think there's still opportunities that we haven't addressed. With that said, I guess I'm looking for, when will we, and I know we're just coming off a long week. I'm not asking you to do anything immediately. But when will we have a report of sorts that's recommendations to us so that we can help be part of the solution?
We can start working on something like that after we conclude the runoff. We will have one runoff election.
Okay.
I think, we do have plans to sit down and say, what worked for us, what didn't work for us, and where can we fix things, and where can we ask for help from the council or from the chief's office or wherever, because we do know that we're pretty pleased with the way things turned out, but we do know there are places we can fix things and make it better for next time around.
Okay, and I'm going to compile my list of just questions or concerns and what I've heard from citizens and submit it to you guys as well, so that hopefully we can have even more success. So thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and Councilman Waters, that we also sent out a recommendation log to all the precinct officials and asked them to take comments on that, voters or whatever, and those came back in, and we are looking at those, and we will address those issues that were specific things that voters or precinct officials have concerns about.
Much appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Hey, Councilor Garvin, my apologies, I had skipped.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to compliment you on the job you did. It's great, and I know you worked long hours. One suggestion on the mail out of the absentees, it looks like they came out in alphabetical order. I got calls during the week, and they want to know where my absentee ballot is, and some were 3 or 4 days later than the others. But if there's some way you could send them all the same day. I don't know, they have 2 days there to do it, but I'd suggest it all be done the same day.
That's a good suggestion, and I'm writing it down right now. And actually, while we're on that point, you asked for suggestions from us. One suggestion is in the law that you all have written for us. One of the days that we're supposed to send out absentee ballots, one of our 2 days is Memorial Day, and it's written to say the last Monday in May, and that's always going to be Memorial Day. So if you all have a chance to look at, revisit the laws when you do that the next time, you might think about that, because it's hard to mail things on Memorial Day.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilman Garvin. Councilor Fisher.
And another thing, can you look at, I don't know the answer to this one at all, because I've seen it in state elections. Half the people, it seems like, forget the secrecy on the vote. And I don't know how, I was just now talking to Tanya about it, I don't know if they don't read the instructions. I don't know if it might be better to put the ballot in the secrecy envelope, so they have to pull it out of the secrecy envelope to vote it maybe. But every time I turned around, I was calling y'all's office, and I know you all was busy because it was going over to voicemail.
Yeah.
And finally, after you all told us once, the person needed to sign the back of it, if they reopened it or said, I forgot the secrecy envelope, I didn't call you anymore, but that was something that's happening every time I turn around.
And that was something when we were processing the absentees that we saw a lot. People do forget to use those secrecy envelopes. I guess the saving grace in that is that that's for the voters' protection and not necessarily for us. It's to protect the secrecy of their ballot. So if they're not concerned enough about that, you know, we're not looking at it and keeping the log. Oh, Jody Fishinghawk's ballot came back and she voted for who? You know, we're not keeping that log if we don't look at. We're too busy, as Councilwoman saw, we're too busy zipping them open and pulling them out and separating them. So that's certainly not a flaw that we're kicking ballots out for.
And I got a lot of compliments that they wasn't white this time. They liked the darker colored vanilla.
Oh, good.
And I got a lot of compliments that there wasn't the little holes in them.
Okay, good.
Thank
That's
you.
good to know.
Councilor Snell.
I have a comment, question maybe. I had a constituent that was trying to vote. He got down and they said, you can't vote here, you gotta go to Spavin. Well, his wife was with him. She could vote there. They both got the same address, the same phone number, and even look alike, you know? But they let her vote, but wouldn't let him vote. How does stuff like that happen?
In that case, you know, our poll workers did make some mistakes, and in that case, it sounds like in our big switch over for redistricting, one of them got put in the wrong district. So what should have happened, or the wrong precinct? They should have allowed that gentleman who wasn't on the poll on the list to vote there. He would have had to vote a challenge ballot. But when those came back to our office like that, saying, you know, wrong precinct, but the correct district, we counted those ballots. So he should have been, you know, I hope he went ahead and drove to Spavin and voted since they didn't let him there. And that was an error by our poll workers that we will address in training again for our runoff.
Well, little things like that is what, you know,
Yeah.
I've seen it happen several times.
Those are the little kinks that happen when you switch everything over, and we're working very hard to fix those for next time around.
Okay, well, good luck to you.
We
No
appreciate
problem.
your
It
patience
was
on that.
well, but if I got beat by one vote, then it wouldn't have been well. Anyway, thank you.
Councilor Byrd.
Yes, just comment, commend you guys for all the hard work. Is Shannon Buell, is he here?
I think he left when he ducked out of here when he finished up.
The law enforcement, let those people know they did an outstanding job at my precinct. There was a constant flow, making sure everybody stayed in compliance, and it's just good to see that you have that much traffic of security and marshals, you know, home in the area. That goes a long way.
We were impressed by how great they were all week long, not just on election day, but during early voting days as well. Every time we opened the vault, one of them was with us. Every time we did anything, they were escorting us to the restroom. So they were great, and we appreciated them so much.
You know, the Saturday voting, I don't know if we could improve upon that. We have many people that take off during the summer on Saturday that are playing Little League ball. I don't know if that's something you might want to look at. Maybe if the presidential election is that, I think theirs is on a Tuesday.
It's on a Tuesday, but Councilman Byrd, that is something that is prescribed by our law. So to change that, that can be something that you revisit when you make us not have to mail out our absentee ballots on Memorial Day anymore.
That's something we're going to do.
Okay.
And as far as Cherokee's voting, I witnessed a Cherokee, full-blood Cherokee speaker, check out of Hastings Hospital. His wife put him in a wheelchair, bring him out, start to exit. Then he says, I want to go vote.
Wow.
Turns around, they take him out there to the polling place there, and he votes.
I'm glad
That
that's so
just-
close to the polling
Other than
place.
everything else, no matter what happened, I thought, I just made my day.
That's a good story.
Didn't even know who he voted for, but that's, thank you guys.
Thank you
But we
all.
still have work to do.
We do have work to do, that's right.
Councilor Harkins.
The only comment I have is on the ballot, I had a lot of the older people say they couldn't see that little box
My
that
mom
they were
complained
supposed
about that
to
too.
fill in. But that was the only complaint that I really had.
It was hard to see, and we will be working on that for the future.
Any further questions for Commissioner? Thank you again.
Thank you.
Okay. Tax Commission?
I'm Fonda, and I'm sitting in for Sharon today. She went to NCI this week, so she just said, "Got some questions. Do you have any?"
Any questions for the Tax Commission? Councilmember Watts.
Thank you. Just want to thank you for the successful opening of the Collinsville office. And I think Buell and Lee and I have talked, and we support trying to find a fix for that neighbor, even though we don't own that property. So I hope that we are able to push that forward in the upcoming budget to maybe address that. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor. Any further questions for the Commission? Tax Commission? All right, thank you. Self-governance, Ms. Handy. Any questions for Ms. Handy? Councilor Watts.
Are you working on the CDC issues that seem to be spinning out of control? And when you say working on it, is it your department or is it health that are working on? Are you helping, assisting health? I just want to know that, are we working on it?
Yes.
Very good. Thank you.
Any other questions for Ms. Handy? Okay, thank you. Planning Commission.
Good afternoon.
Any questions for Ms. Hummingbird? Councilmember Watts.
Thank you. Can you explain this bingo class 2 one-touch reclassification?
Yes, actually that is something that we actually broached the subject with the NIGC back in 2001 when we first undertook a review of the regulations regarding the play of bingo. And what the NIGC published on Tuesday, I believe it was a recognition of the fact that one-touch bingo, wherein a player is using a technological aid to play the game of bingo, classifies itself as a Class 2 game. Before, the NIGC took the position that a minimum of a two-touch gaming system had to be employed in order for it to meet the test of IGRA, which constitutes the full spectrum of requirements for a Class 2 game. They felt that a one-touch option eliminated enough of the human involvement that it put itself into a facsimile definition rather than a technological aid definition. What the NIGC is proposing to do now is reinterpret a former chairman's position that a two-touch system is the only system that would constitute a Class 2 gaming system. The comment period on this particular reinterpretation ends on August 26th. In talking with a number of colleagues of mine around Oklahoma and around the country, all the ones that I've talked to are in support of it. I would be in support of it as well. I do expect that there might be some challenges possibly from within the federal family because I would suspect Justice might have an issue with it, as well as maybe in some state jurisdictions where Class 2 gaming is a topic of debate. So we will see how it plays out, but what the NIGC is proposing, I think, is a good thing for tribal gaming in and of itself, and we'll probably see a larger distribution of Class 2 games across the country.
Just to make sure my mind's clear, Class 3 is Vegas, right?
Class 3 is full games chance where it's not predicated on a predetermined outcome.
And these were Class 3 before, and they could probably become Class 2. Is that
The games that we have on the floor now, the Class 2 games, are in line with the previous chair's determination that a two-touch system is what we need. What we're looking at now is looking at going from 2 to 1, obviously. But what we're also really looking at is a speeding up of the game so you can see a lot more gaming activity itself rather than having to rely on a two-touch system, which it slows it down just enough to be perceptible, but after you take one of those elements out, it just really gets you really close to the feel and experience of a Class 3 game that requires one touch, but it still leaves you in the realm of a Class 2 game, which is really good for the tribes.
one last question? Did your commission take action on employment of felons in non-gaming positions?
We have not yet. One of the things that we had discussed with C&E's Employee Services Department, as well as our Career Services Department here, is coming up with some guidelines under which we would review individuals that have felony backgrounds for particular positions at C&E. Up until recently, it had been our understanding at the Gaming Commission level that C&E was not interested in applicants who had a felony background. That has since been reinterpreted or reevaluated, and now we are all in agreement that we would be best served to have some guidelines under which certain individuals with certain types of backgrounds could be employed, whereas some individuals might not be in the best interest to have working in our gaming facility. So we will be developing those guidelines jointly and employing those as soon as we can.
Will you put those out for public comment? Will you email it to the whole council?
Not a problem.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Any further questions? Councilor Williams.
Referring to felonies at C&E, as I understand it, we have some of those folks working more at C&E.
Correct. What we have is sort of a two-part process. One part governs what is called a covered employee. Those employees are classified as key employees or primary management officials. Those individuals are covered by the requirements under Indian Gaming Regulatory Act as well as the Tribal-State Compact. This Tribal-State Compact is probably the more telling of those two documents in that it requires or limits really the ability of the gaming operations to hire people with felony convictions into those types of positions that constitute either a key employee or a management official. We have a requirement from the National Gaming Commission through IGRA to license all individuals that work in a gaming facility. So anybody that is not a key employee or a management official falls into a category we call operational. In that category, the Commission has wider discretion on finding out whether or not a particular person's background is going to be suitable for the position that they're going into. What we have had happen in the past is where individuals have not either fully disclosed their previous criminal history or have been so far removed, the timing of it has been so far removed from when the incident happened to the time of the application that they no longer felt it was relevant. So when those individuals have presented themselves to us, we have had the Commission review the circumstances. We give that individual a hearing prior to taking action on their license. And all of those individuals have resulted in a what we call a conditional license. A conditional license is one that sets parameters by which that person's employment is governed while at the casinos. A conditional license in this case would mean that you, as a person receiving this license, would be restricted to just that operational license. You could not move into a key or primary management official capacity just by virtue of the compact requirements that we have that requires no felons. So we do have a few, I don't know the exact number of individuals that have that type of conditional license, but I would say it's fewer than a dozen.
Is it possible for you to send to the council a statistical breakdown, not an answer, but a statistical breakdown of how many felonies, drug charges, firearm charges, and DUIs employed at C&E and what their job areas are?
I will do my best to identify those areas, but as far as the actual felony convictions, we should be able to pull that information fairly quickly. As far as the specific charges, that may be a little bit more difficult, but I'll see what we can do for you.
Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilor Garb.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Jamie, I understand the Osage going to give us a little more competition up there north. Have you heard about opening up another casino?
I haven't heard any more. I just heard rumors about it, but I haven't really gotten details on it. I can do some checking around if you'd like.
Come check around.
Okay.
Kind of hurt us a little bit, won't it?
It could, but I think to give C&E some credit, I think they have a very good operating model. They seem to respond and do pretty well when faced with some competition, so they may rise to the occasion again, but I'm not saying it's not going to hurt. I'm just saying that
See what you find out.
they might like a little friendly competition.
Thank
Maybe
you.
not so friendly.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Is there any further questions for Attorney Bird? Thank you, Jody.
Yes, sir.
Registrar Citizenship Data Update, Mr. Justice sent an email. He cannot attend this meeting, but he did report there are 213 address updates for May and no deceased notices.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
So, when are we going to have like a plan for like census update? If we know there's all these bad addresses, what's the plan going forward? I mean, I absolutely appreciate the registration update in terms of activity, but are we going to be proactive in terms of getting addresses fixed?
Well, originally, as I recall, this reporting item wasn't just meant to tell us how many address changes. It was, as I recall, it was originally intended to update us on efforts to do working with the counties to do the 911 addressings and things. That's my memory of how this got started. If my opinion, and this is what we're going to do in terms of reports going forward, is if we're just going to get these numbers, that can be sent over in written form. We don't need to burden David Justice that's coming over here and setting if this is the report. This information may be useful, but it doesn't take his presence to do that because it takes him away from other duties. So he'll be at most submitting this in writing periodically, or someone can add in. To be more responsive to your question, I guess the question is, do we want to take it up in this committee? If so, somebody can propose an agenda item to do that. If there's somebody over administration that's working on it, then we can look to them to give us a report down the road. And I see Madam Barker Harold. I'm sorry, Councilor Coates. Councilor Coates is, yes, go ahead.
Thank you. I was it's been a question of mine for a while because I've seen a real sharp uptick in the numbers of communications I'm getting from citizens just on a wide range of registration type questions. And I was just wondering if registration themselves could begin to make an appearance at this committee, maybe even just on a quarterly basis, but I think a monthly basis, given everything that's going on with them right now. And I was just wondering if that might be added as a regular item to our report.
I appreciate that, Councilor. My thought is, let's find out from the administration, from registration, what work they're going on to clean up the addresses, et cetera, if there's any plans right now. I can tell you right now, registration is, if you've been in there, they're on top of each other, they're doing their best to get these applications out, so they're really burdened right now with getting the job done. I think they're getting some additional space. I wouldn't want to burden them further right now with a monthly report. What I want to see is sort of what the state of things is from registration's perspective. It doesn't have to be a monthly report. We can do a discussion item at any month. So perhaps we can have a discussion item next month. Or I think we're trying to keep the agenda a little bit light for the month of July, but perhaps in August we can get something on the agenda for a discussion item, flesh this out a little bit. So I wouldn't be inclined to put it on as a monthly reporting item right now, given what registration's up against in terms of doing their day-to-day work.
Mr. Chairman, yes.
I yield back to Councilor Coates.
Thank you. I couldn't agree with you more. I think they are way overburdened at this point, and my questions to them are really about that. It's not about so much the degree of the updates in the addressing or anything like that. It's really about the processing of applications, which seems to have fallen so far behind. And just what are the priorities that they seem to have these days? They really are larger sorts of questions, and it just seems to fall further and further behind as time passes. I agree. I think they either need to reprioritize or else to have a dramatic increase in the numbers of people that are working for them. And I'm not quite sure how to address this. I mean, in this almost 7 years that I've been on this body, they've never reported to it. I don't know exactly if it's government relations or who they're under. How do we get some of the larger kinds of responses from them, not just about what's going on day to day and the numbers and so forth, but just in terms of, what are their policies, what are their priorities, so that maybe we can assist them to think about this in a little bit different way, because the priorities that seem to be foremost for them right now, I'm just, as I said, I'm just seeing increasing numbers of issues that my constituents are having, with registration items. And it's not about bad address. It's just about applications themselves, which it seems to me should be the priority, but which I suspect is not these days. So again, I would really, really urge that we are able to have this type of discussion with them as soon as we possibly can, so that this doesn't continue to go on. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. One thing's for sure, in the 7 years I've been on this council, one thing is for certain, and that is the number of applications just increases exponentially, and that's just because of the basic nature of the thing, which is that the number of folks that are registering increases. So I don't see it as a lack of priority. I see it as a high demand for the registration cards, and they're getting those out. But what I would say is perhaps in the month of August we can get some sort of maybe start with a written report about the process and go from there. I don't go specifically to David Justice. I don't think it benefits him and his work to come over here every month. So that'll be off the agenda, but we can certainly have discussion items. We now move on to old business. Councilor Fishing-Hawk has stepped out for a moment. I suppose we can come back to that. You don't have to know. I know this isn't your item. Do you have to know if she's tabling this?
I do not know.
All right. We'll move on to item number 2. And Madam Speaker, on item number 2,
that's ongoing.
That's ongoing,
and
so
we need to keep it on
Sure.
the agenda. I just asked that we pass it for a month, because when they get the work completed, we're going to have to move pretty quick on it.
let's move, just to keep with the rules here on Councilor Fishing-Hawk's item. Yes.
She's asked to table it this time, please.
Okay, will someone make a motion to table for a moment?
Okay.
Second, Councilor Thornton, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. All right, so we're back, Madam Speaker. You've made a motion to
Yes, I
table
would
the
make a
compact.
motion to table number 2.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Councilor Hargis, all those in favor say aye. All opposed, same sign. That's
Yes, just for 1 month.
item number 3, affinity.
Yes, I believe they're diligently working on the compact, and they're working with one of the individuals that you all recommended through the resolution process.
All right, so what you've tabled though is the vehicle tag compact.
Yes, not
That's item
number
2. Item number 3, affinity tax, Councilor Baker.
I'll move to table also.
Table for
Second.
Moss. Second, Councilor Moss. All those in favor say aye. All opposed, same sign. And let's see, item number 4, discussion possible action on the livestock fund next week.
Yes, I actually have a rough draft, but we're still trying to fine tune it. And I hate to ask, but if y'all could give us 1 more month.
Second.
On it. Thank you.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Table for a moment. Item number 5, with respect to building construction, Councilor Lay.
I'd like to table it for 1 month.
Table for a month.
Second.
Second, Councilor Hargis. All those in favor say aye. All opposed, same sign. New business item number 1, resolution with respect to the opposition to human trafficking Madam Speaker.
This is a resolution opposing human trafficking and supporting prevention services to trafficking victims, stopping human trafficking across the country, and especially in tribal communities. And this was proposed to us by our own Ms. Cherokee, who is in attendance today. And I would put that in the form of a motion and ask for other sponsors if possible.
Madam Speaker, Ms. Cherokee's here.
Yes, I would like to recognize Ms. Cherokee too for all of her work on this endeavor.
She would come forward.
Would you like to say anything?
I'm trying to get her up here.
This is Christy Kingfisher, for you all that have not met her, and she is from Cherokee County.
Hi, I'd just like to thank the council for supporting this. I'm going to do this without crying. This is something that's an issue that I'm very passionate about. Human trafficking is defined as the illegal trade in human beings for the purpose of commercial sexual exploitation or forced labor. And basically it's modern day slavery. And supposedly after the Civil War, the 13th Amendment was added to the Constitution that said there wouldn't be any more slavery. But actually right now there are more slaves now than at any other point in history. And so when most people think about human trafficking, they think of it in other countries. But actually the United States is the #1 destination, and human trafficking is currently tied with the illegal arms industry as the second largest international criminal industry in the world, and it's currently the fastest growing. The average age is 12 to 14 years old, and the average price for a person sold is $90. The slave industry rakes in $32 billion a year, and that's an underground network whose annual revenue is greater than that of Google. So in 2012, 249 calls were made from Oklahoma to the National Human Trafficking Resource Center hotline. And so most people think of it in the big cities, like Oklahoma City, because of the intersections of interstates 40, 35, and 44. But I mean, it's happening here within the Cherokee Nation jurisdiction. Just this year, there's been cases in Talpal, also Jay. More recently, there was a case in Claremore where a man, posed as a preacher, took advantage of a woman and sold her for dates on Craigslist. And then there was a case in Sallisaw with a woman who tried to actually sell her children on Facebook to raise money for her and her boyfriend's bail money. And so this is a big issue, and so I'd just like to encourage the Cherokee Nation to spread this message and raise awareness about it, because this is truly a growing epidemic that something needs to be done about. So I just like to say kudos to the council for your support, and thank you for your time.
Should this pass, I would ask Ms. Cherokee to come the night of July 15th so that she can also present it then.
We appreciate her leadership on that. All right, we have a motion to approve. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Madam Speaker, item 2, implementation of the recently enacted drug testing.
Yes. We needed to develop policies, and I just took a stab at trying to get these on for your review. I worked with our legal counsel to stay entirely consistent with the law that you all have passed, and where we could, we tried to envision what you wanted as best we could. And I would like for you all to look at those, and if they're okay, then we can move forward with this project.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I know this had to be difficult because I think we all probably have a different opinion on it. The only question I had was if in the implementation it's random, we only have 24 opportunities a year to some degree. So some of us are coming from an hour and a half away, or even here locally, if you're ill or you're traveling. What happens, I guess, in the implementation if that's one day where you aren't going to be there at a meeting?
Well, we would, as it's written, and we were trying to figure out what was most convenient.
No, I think
we just tried to say it would only be done on a tribal committee day. Now, obviously, if you're If you're not here, you're not here. Ms. Parker, and could you come up, just, or Ms. Harold, could we fit in here? I don't want them to be penalized because they were sick one day or something. I'm assuming that the way they handle it at the drive is if you're not here, then
The vendor would come back on another random day.
Right.
And try to hook up with it.
Do we need to put that in there, or is that just, I mean, that's the way they do it at CMB? Yes.
One place you might put that is the end of the first sentence on number 4. Testing will occur at a regular council committee meeting day at which the selected councilors are in attendance.
Okay. Well, that,
And if they're not in attendance, then the testing will occur.
okay. So we can add that at the end of that sentence. And again, this is, I mean, I want everybody's input. I was just trying to move it forward. Every time y'all want policies, we're kind of falling down on getting those policies. So I'm just trying to move these ideas forward so that you all can react to them and we can put them in play.
And Councilor Karen Watts, I would say you still have the floor. Councilor Coates is next.
I think I only have one more question. I guess when the only heartache I had with like the bill in the first place was then how do you implement at the end, should somebody test positive, the appeals process, and then what do you do with the council person? Are they automatically removed? Does it go into?
Y'all didn't have a provision.
Yeah, that was kind of.
I don't want to say, but that was one of my arguments is you didn't finish your law. But we tried to put in there that we would offer assistance of a confidential nature, much like in other workplaces, that we would offer you assistance, but we can't force you to take the assistance. Obviously, the only way someone from this body can be removed is through the constitutional process.
And that is a conversation the speaker and I have had in discussing possible policies is because there's no substantive provisions in the code, the act that we have, but we can't change in the act the Constitution. And the Constitution sets out how a councilor can be removed or elected official can be removed. So we added just for whatever speaker is the sitting speaker to be able to offer assistance to that particular council person. It would all stay confidential.
Maybe to kind of bring some closure to that, and I don't know if this is the right way to do it, but it maybe refer to that constitutional section that should it rise to the occasion to be an issue that any removal from office would have to be compliant with.
Well, I kind of thought about that, but I can't do it because y'all didn't have it in the law. This is I just tried to stay consistent with what you all passed. This is a recompilation, basically, of what your law said.
Thank you very much for all the work on it. Thank you.
Councilor Coates.
Yeah, I was wondering if somebody can email this to me right away. I presume it was handed out in the meeting, but I don't think it's ever been emailed to anybody, so I have nothing in front of me. I have no ability to participate in this at this time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councilor. We're emailing that to you now. Councilor Lake.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I'm glad to see a policy or any policy come forward. This should have come with the law when we acted this law, and it did not. But this is a good start. I don't know if it's a finish. I don't know if y'all intended this to be a finish. I think I can go along with this, but I want, this confidential information. Here's the deal. We all know this is hardball politics here. Some of you just went through council races. Things get said, things get done. In years past, I've seen a lot of things said about a lot of people that weren't true. during political races in the Cherokee Nation. What I did not want was for the policy guideline to be set by the executive branch of office controlling the legislative branch of office. So finally, I'm seeing a policy guideline from this body, and that's a good thing. You do not want one body controlling the other one any way whatsoever. Whether I like the chief or don't like the chief, doesn't matter. So I'm glad to see this policy come forward. I don't know if it's perfect. I just kind of started looking at it. Confidential information, who's in charge of that? Drug testing vendor, is the person going to come and stab us all during a committee meeting? There's a lot of ifs here, so I could probably support this, and I appreciate your work, but we're going to have to go through a lot of confidentiality. And I heard just now, well, what if you flunk a drug test? Does that mean you're out the door? And so somebody needs to make sure we do the right thing here. We're finally seeing an attempt at the policy, and I really appreciate it. Thank you.
I was just going to respond.
He has an answer to her.
Oh, okay.
I'd like to see a policy set where it's like in most companies and most state organizations, if you have a positive test, you'll be counseled for it. And it'll be private counseling.
That's what
The
that
second
last
step
one.
will be a written report on you. And the third step would be bringing before the judge.
Okay.
There'll be 3 steps. There'll be 3 times.
Here's, if I could respond. Y'all didn't put that in the law.
I know it. That's what we did.
No,
We didn't
no.
have the meeting that we were supposed to have.
If y'all, we might do some amendment to the law, but you didn't put any of that in there. I don't know. I mean, this is just, hey, I'm just trying to move it forward. I don't care if you act on it today. I don't want to say I don't care if you ever act on it, because it needs to be, you got a law, you need policy, and we didn't seem to be getting there. I don't care who keeps the confidential documents. Only thing I could think of was we put them in a file, we lock them in the safe, and that's where it's at. As to telling someone they got to take counseling, you didn't put that there. That's what I said, folks, when we knew you were trying to pass this law, is there needed to be a whole law, not just part of a law. There is no punishment in that law. They're not subject to FOIA, they're not subject to GRA, so the information should never, never, never leave this council house. Admin has nothing to do with our testing. We have checked exhaustively into the testing, and we propose to you to do the cheek swab. It's least intrusive. It appears to be even better as accuracy goes than the other test, and it can be done. They would come here, whoever they picked at random, you would go over to a private room, they swab your cheek, they put it in a little vial and take it back. And that's the extent of what happens. Now, we can do the other type of testing if you all want to. We'll have to, I don't know, we'll probably send you somewhere for that one.
But I've looked at several vendors, I've talked to them, I've researched them.
It's $17 and $34 or something. It's manageable money-wise.
It's more budget friendly to do the swab, and that is what CMB does. I actually talked to the vendor that does for CMB.
Actually, if you leave it to me to get the vendor in here, I was just going to use CMB's vendor because they got it down pat.
There have been
Nothing's 100% proof, but I've tried to make this as simple as I could. But hey, this is just a stab. If somebody else wants to take a stab at it, it's not going to hurt my feelings at all. And if somebody else wants to worry about keeping it confidential, it's not gonna hurt my feelings at all. None of this bothers me at all. It's just whatever y'all wanna do, I'm just trying to move it forward.
Madam Speaker, we have others on the list that have questions and comments. My suggestion is this is a framework that might ultimately be what passes, but it may not pass today in view of the questions. I wonder if a month to continue
That'd
work on
be
it.
fine with me. And even if you wanted to relook at the law and make it a little more of what Mr. Thornton's suggesting, it could be done with probably a paragraph and an amendment to the law.
And before you make a motion to table for a month, just my observation is, you can only write the policies that you have the legal authority to write the policies. And the legal authority in that act was very limited. And part of the reason it's limited is because there's constitutional requirements on this office that can't be expanded. There are constitutional provisions with respect to removal from office. At the end of the day, elected officials are constitutionally unique, and so it's difficult to pass these laws and implement them. Madam Speaker, do you want to table for a month?
Could you yield to me for just a minute?
I want full discussion on it so that if there's something else y'all want us to put in here and it's within the realm of that law, I would be glad to.
I'll say this, I have 3 counselors on the list, Councilor Cranwell, Councilor Lay, Councilor Byrd, if we can exhaust that list efficiently.
And I'll just hold it until.
Councilor Coates, and then if we can very briefly add some questions or comments, then we can, resting assured that we'll do this next one. Councilor Conwell.
Do we need to put tarot compliance in there, or would we be a tarot vendor? Because I know at least one tarot vendor actually provides the cheek swabs.
I haven't thought about that, but
I don't
yes,
know, but I'll check and see.
I don't know that we have to put it in there, Karen. We'll make sure that they get a. I guess what we'll do is send it out for. We'll just put it out for bid.
Okay.
We'll just put that portion of it out for bid if that's a suitable alternative for everybody.
Good point, Councilor Conwell. Anything further?
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Lay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I could probably support what we've got here, and I really appreciate the attempt that you're making to finally get a policy guide on this thing.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Byrd.
Yes, when we first discussed this, we had talked about forming a work group to address that policy. That never did happen. It's something about elections started and we never get there. But now I'm glad that the speaker here at least brought something to the table that seems very doable. I support that.
And if you all want to form a work group, that's great. We had several little work groups going, and
I think that's good. I think we can start what you got, Speaker.
And just, I looked at the gaming commission policies, the travel policies, and it is different. Just like the deputy speaker said, you all are not employees, so to speak, because the other policies could be initiated with a lot of what Councilor Thornton suggested, but you all are under the Constitution rather than employee policies, so it does limit a lot of things.
these results, though, if I might just add, these results will not go back to human resource. They stay right here in this council house, and they will be under lock and key, and they are not subject to, as per your law, FOIA or GRA or any sort of request. And frankly, I don't intend to be involved in any other way other than if someone wants assistance, we'll try to find a way to give them assistance.
And we have Councilor Coates next.
Thank you. My question is, I would want to understand better why there is an exemption proposed here for anyone who's on regular medications of some sort of chronic medication, as long as that person is already having to provide a written doctor's explanation of it and presumably a report of what prescriptions they're taking. It seems like those particular medications could be eliminated should they test for any of them. So I'm not understanding, I guess, or I would want to understand better why there is a complete exemption being made for anybody who is on regularly prescribed medication for a health condition. So that would be, something I'd want to understand better and to look at. Thank you.
Councilor Coates, would you yield to the speaker? She has a response.
Yes.
That was exactly word for word what we took out of the law that you passed. It's no more, no less. That's exactly what you all had in the law.
What's in the law?
We just tried to go by the exact wording of the law that was passed, and that paragraph is the exact wording out of the law.
Anything further, Councilor Coates?
No, but just to note that I didn't vote for the law, so that's probably one of the issues I have with it, but I appreciate the explanation. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's figure what you.
Well, I think
we've had some folks
yeah,
say
I think
this.
we ought to give everybody a month to take this home and look at it and see what your thoughts are and compare it to the law that has been placed, has been successfully passed and we need to adhere to.
Right.
And let's put it back on next month, and then if y'all have changes that we need to look at, maybe you give these to our legal counsel, and I want to thank you for all your work on this. We tried to make it, we wanted to keep it one page if we could, and successfully it has been done.
Is that a motion to table for a month? We have a second? Second by Councilor Thornton. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. We have a couple of additional items from the amended agenda. Shelley, which was the next one? Mr. Harper? All right. Next item for the amended agenda is a resolution in support of nomination of Mr. Harper. Councilor Karen Watts.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee. I really appreciate you letting me amend the agenda to include this. If you're not familiar with Keith Harper, he's a Cherokee Nation citizen that we have distinguished before with the resolution. We were hoping he might be a district judge, I believe, in the past. But if we can keep this moving and on next council meeting agenda, then I think it would arrive in time to help with his Senate confirmation is what I would hope. Is there anyone else that would like to be added as a sponsor at this time? I would be welcome other sponsors. I think that shows.
Let's have a show of hands of co-sponsors. Okay.
And then Courtney, assuming this moves forward with the number of sponsors, should we help package that to the Hill and such for us? And I make a motion to approve.
Second. Let's go to second. Do we have any questions or discussion? Councilor Ford.
Yes, is there a time limit set on this position?
Councilor, do you mean at time, is it time sensitive or?
Time sensitive, no, as far as the service.
Oh, his appointment?
Service.
I don't know the answer to that question. Councilor Karen Watts, do you know the answer to that?
So in the White House release, and he is under an umbrella of silence, I think is what they call, so I can't have dialogue with him, and I don't know who I would contact. All my White House folks are gone. So I didn't talk to Courtney because I did this at like midnight last night. So if there's something, if Courtney can find that there is something in there, I don't know that there was nothing in the reference, and I printed the part from the White House release. There's nothing in a reference in terms of time frame for the appointment. But I do believe it's sensitive that by the time we get it to the Hill, we need to keep it moving in terms of our work. Does that answer your question, Councilman Thornton?
Not really.
And Councilman Thornton, I wonder if before...
A 4-year period?
I don't know the answer to that question, but
Zero?
I bet it's more than zero, but I wonder if we could, between now and full... Now, yes. If we find out before full council, would that satisfy you, Councilor?
Also would like to have a resume. And is there a salary goes along with this?
I'm sorry, what is it you're asking?
Resume and salary.
Is
there a salary?
Wants to know Mr.
Do
Harper's
we have a
salary?
budgeted salary for this position?
This is a United States position, so
I've seen what it is.
I have no idea what Mr. Harper would get paid.
This is representing my people, right?
It's President Obama's nomination that the U.S. Senate will confirm. I was hoping we could support him as a citizen of the Cherokee Nation for it. I know that I personally don't care to put his salary or potential salary on record. But you're welcome to go, I guess, Courtney, can you find out for Councilman Thornton to satisfy him?
Yeah.
Okay.
He is a citizen.
Yes. He litigated the Cobell litigation to completion and led that team. So he is very well known in Indian country and the Cherokee Nation. I hope that satisfies everyone.
No, I don't think it's fantastic.
Any other questions? Okay, no other questions. Councilor Kenwas, thank you for this. I think you'll find broad support, including broad support from the administration. I know that they've been interested in this as well. We have a motion second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Very good. All right. Our next item is as an item to the resolution to authorize the placement of land in trust of land in South Coffeyville, which is land on which the community building, which is currently operated by Native American Fellowship Incorporated, but which is owned by Cherokee Nation, and on which that facility sits. I'd ask Councilman Lay, who should be listed as a co-sponsor on this, to move this for approval.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you, and I would like to be listed as a co-sponsor. This is a resolution authorizing the placement of land in trust, part of Block 16, South Coffeyville, and I think all the lots and so forth are written there.
Right. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Madam Speaker, and Councilor Kenwas.
Thank you. I would like to be added to as a sponsor, if you don't mind. This is exciting that we have our community buildings helping build our land in our trust base. But I have a concern in that we are not naming the community group, or that it's for that, because if something were to happen and changes in administration, I think it's important that we protect the interest of that group in what we do. And I don't know if it's appropriate here or somewhere else, but I would think we would start putting it in the resolution to make sure that it's preserved for the use of that group and couldn't be took over necessarily for other things by the tribe. Does that make sense?
Sure. Councilor, would you make a friendly amendment in the 1, 2, 3, 4 whereas, where it says the property has a community building, and then there, I would ask you to make a friendly amendment, operated by Native American Fellowship Incorporated. Does that satisfy your concern?
Can it say operated by Native American, it's NAFIS, right? Native American Fellowship?
Native American Fellowship Incorporated, NAFI.
Native American Fellowship Incorporated, and preserved for its use? How does that work?
I would, let's yield to Council.
I would like to express one concern, and that is, usually your resolution has to go with your trust application. If we limit that in some way, that might cause a question from the BIA and stuff. So you could always make a policy afterwards to make it limited, but I don't know how. I've asked Robert and Sarah, we're both all three of us are kind of wondering about it, but would be somewhat concerned about limiting the use in your resolution that could affect the trust application. Might just have them research it, and then you could make that amendment.
Councilor, would you yield to me just for a moment? You know, this, even if we don't put this in the resolution, and I wouldn't want to do anything that would jeopardize its processing or it's really counterproductive, whether or not we put this in the resolution, this community group has operated this building for at least 2 decades. It's very stable. I don't. It's crossed administrations. There's no. I don't think any danger of supplanting it. It would certainly happen over my dead body if that group were to be displaced.
You can always do a resolution after it's placed in trust or something else, but.
But I don't want to do anything that would jeopardize this application. So, Councilor, would you be willing to maybe yield on that point until we, maybe we can do it?
Yeah, and I haven't actually. We never finished the friendly amendment, but I guess to address my concern. Could we get a response before we do a final vote on this?
You could pass it today, subject to possible friendly amendment based upon what we find out, because this would have to go through the full council in July.
That's
and so we could get with, here's the,
I do the city trust packages for the tribe,
And we don't want to restrict any kind of activity on that because it will raise red flags. It'll cause red flags in our title commitment, and it also will problem with the solicitor's office.
I forgot you were sitting back there, I should have asked you, but that was my concern, so maybe we should.
Madam Speaker.
I think the proper procedure would be just to do an approved lease of the land after it goes into trust.
Yes, the point now would
And
just
that
be to make it
protects the
generic enough
entity.
that it's not a problem going through the trust process.
Thank you for addressing those concerns. Thank you, everyone.
All right. Any other questions on this resolution?
I would like to also be added as a
Madam
sponsor.
Speaker. Councilor Burke.
Me too.
Show of hands. We're all, just make sure we're all in. Okay, we got you.
Is that everybody? Everybody?
I don't, it looks like everyone.
Who did?
Who's opposed? All right. All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. All right. Now to announcements. Any announcements? Madam Speaker.
I was going to ask the chair if he would entertain an idea of moving all the meetings, which would be your two meetings, this meeting and the next meeting, to July 15th. We're going to have a light agenda, I believe, for all of them. And that particular week, I've been notified by several different people that they're going to kind of be out of pocket. And so I'm asking for your consideration and backing up and making your meeting, say, at 10 o'clock, followed up with the
Talking about.
ENF, which we could do in the next meeting.
All right, so July 15th, which is Council Day, start rules at 10. What order? I'm just trying to understand that.
July 15th is also that special meeting for the landfill. That's what we're talking about.
That's not been put out as an agenda. Could we back that one up to 9? That special resource, yeah. Then we can fit the other and start for
Was that your concern, Councilor Baker?
Yes. With that, back it up to 9 o'clock.
What are we doing?
First of all, I'm just trying to understand, and then we'll make sure everybody understands, which is to put rules on the 15th of July.
Special rules at 9. It's just for the land.
Special resources. Special resources at 9.
And then rules at 10.
Rules at 10. ENF at 11. Regular.
Everything else is regular.
All right, does everyone understand what the proposal is? And Councilor Kawas, did you have a question or comment?
Okay, so let me just make sure my mind's clear. Everything in July will be on Monday, July 15th, starting at 9 a.m.
Councilor Snell just told me he needs more time for his meeting, so we'll start at 8 a.m. So we'll start at 8 a.m.
8 a.m. on July 15th. Okay.
Rule's still at 10. Yes. Ready? Okay. All right, but that's, all right. Okay, entertain motion to adjourn. By hands, so hard. Second motion to adjourn. Second. All in favor say aye. Aye.